John McMullen, of course, 97.3 ESPN.com, and get his take on 5 thoughts on this week's opponent, the Patriots, where I think, John, Chip Kelly summed it up perfectly today. Do they still have Brady? That's all we need to know.
Yeah, and he was gushing about Tom Brady, as he should. We're talking about certainly one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks of all time, so everybody in football should gush about him. But, I got to thinking, and Chip was talking about he handles things at the line of scrimmage and how he orchestrates things and how he's able to take advantage of the opposing defenses. And I kind of question, why don't you want a quarterback like that? Not that it's easy to find, but he doesn't want a quarterback like that. He wants somebody who listens to directions rather than has the ability to make adjustments on the field. It's a little bit strange. Again, we always talk about those Chip Kelly contradictions. You saw one front and center when he was raving about Tom Brady.
Yeah, when you talk about the Patriots, you start with him. At this point this week, John, what else do they have? You write at 97.3 ESPN.com, 5 on the Patriots, next man up. Who are these next men?
They don't have much, to be honest. Rob Gronkowski's out. Luckily for them, it's not going to be a long-term injury. It looked like it would be much worse on the field last Sunday night. So he'll be back at some point, certainly before the end of the season. Julian Edelman might be back by the playoffs, might not. Certainly not going to be back for the Eagles. They're hopeful Danny Amendola can play, but that's unlikely. Obviously, Deion Lewis is already gone. Those are Tom Brady's 4 top receivers, and they're all probably not going to be on the field Sunday. Only one has a chance to go. That's Amendola. So at some point, as impressive as what the Patriots do, as good as Tom is, we're down to people like Scott Chandler and Brandon Bolden and James White, and there's not a lot of talent on that offensive side of the ball. And as strange as it sounds, this is a really good opportunity for Bill Davis to get things going back in the right direction.
This is a team last week, John, that lost an uncharacteristic game for them. I mean, they're up 2 touchdowns late in the game against a backup quarterback. What happened to them last week? Did they run out of weapons? Is Denver a very good team? Why would you surmise that Denver knocked them off of the unbeaten ranks?
A little more disappointed on the defensive side because Belichick is known for really, really making young quarterbacks struggle. And Brock Osweiler did some good things. Not that he was perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but they had that game under control. And if you were watching, you almost saw when Gronkowski went down and he looked like he was in significant pain and he was carted off. You saw the face of Tom Brady. It was just this look of disbelief, and our season is over. And I think that was the mentality on that sideline, and I really think it affected that team. You don't usually think of things, but that's a different type of player. We always talk about superstars in this league, and there's a difference between superstars and just stars. And Gronkowski's right there with J.J. Watt and people like that as far as being that much of an advantage over a particular team every Sunday. And I think that entire team thought they were going to be done. They were going to be without him for the rest of the season, and they sort of had a little mental hiccup. But that said, Denver's also a very good team, and it was almost a perfect storm, and they still needed overtime to beat them.
Yeah, it's Eagles-Patriots Sunday. You can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. John's got 5 on the Patriots and his pick for the game. You might be surprised by the pick. I was a little surprised when I just saw it over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Check that out. Yesterday, Phil Sheridan was on the show, and he said something that was kind of funny. He said, I don't know what the Eagles do, defensively. It's not like you need a guy to kind of follow Brandon LaFell around the field. They've been torched by high-level wide receivers this year. They've had a lot of problems. Is this a team that the Eagles defense, which has been good for most of the year, John, matches up pretty well with?
Well, except for the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, they just don't have much left as far as skill position people go. LeGarrette Blount is obviously can gash in the running game, and he'll be the main back. And you mentioned LaFell. He's the top receiver. Chandler's the top tight end. That's a lot different from Gronkowski, Edelman, Deion Lewis, and Danny Amendola. And that's what the Patriots have to deal with. And it really speaks to the greatness of Brady and Bill Belichick that they've been able to use this next man up philosophy, and they trust these players, and somehow they come up with win after win after win. But at some point, you can't replace certain players, and the two big ones are Gronk and Edelman, and they're both not going to be on the field on Sunday against the Eagles. Those are the two nightmare matchups when you play the Patriots. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is hope to slow them down, and they're both not going to be on the field. So there is no reason this defense shouldn't have a bit of a bounce back, and certainly not be anywhere near the 45 points given up level.
No, there are a couple things in this game, though, that if you're an Eagles fan, should make you feel good. You probably don't anyway. But the Patriots haven't lost back-to-back games since 2012. And if the Patriots win and the Jets lose, the Patriots can win the division, so they can kind of keep themselves healthy the rest of the way if they want. So, obviously, this is a game that New England it's very important to them.
Yeah, I mean, they're all important. The Patriots know they're going to win the division. They win it every year. It's basically their birthright. This will be their 7th straight at some point. And Brady's 13th, which is an all-time record for a quarterback. So they always win the division. But for them, it's about more than that. It's about obviously getting the first-round bye and having a potential AFC championship matchup, whether it's against Cincinnati or Denver. Having that game in Foxborough. So they have to continue to win, and that is the best home field advantage in the sport right now. So it's a really difficult hurdle for the Eagles, but it's hard to imagine them going in and winning against Belichick and Brady in any circumstance, even this one. But if you have to play the Patriots, this is the week you want to play them.
John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. Plenty more on this Philadelphia game as Sam Bradford's back practicing. It looks like he's going to go. John, we've been kind of asking this question throughout the day. What has the difference been on offense without Bradford? I mean, is it just, hey, they just didn't play well regardless, it didn't matter? Or is there something we learned about Bradford in his absence?
No, I think it's been pretty much the same. It's been a struggling offense. I think the difference has been the defense, and they've been so poor, which they played a lot better when Sam was in the game. But you saw the same struggles, failure to get first downs, the constant tempo. And when you play at that speed and you get 3 and outs, it puts a great strain on the defense. And they've been fighting through it at times through the first 9 games, and everything kind of collapsed against Tampa Bay, continued against Detroit. I didn't see much difference at all with this offense. It's not good with Sam Bradford. It's not good with Mark Sanchez. It's not good at all. One of the most amusing things I've heard this week, and I compared Bill Belichick to Lou Holtz, because Lou Holtz used to always do this when he was the coach at Notre Dame. It didn't matter who they were playing. He would always talk them up like they were the 85 Bears, and that's kind of what Bill Belichick said about the Eagles. There's one quote where he said, I don't think any team in football has as deep as skill position talent as the Eagles. And anyone who has watched Philadelphia play is kind of giggling at that.
They're too deep at every position at the skill position, right?
Exactly. I don't know what Bill's talking about, but obviously, coach speak and things like that. You certainly don't want to let down, and the Patriots are known for not having that type of thing, and maybe that's the reason why, because he's a master at handling personalities. I compare him to Phil Jackson when he was an NBA coach, because he has his players believing that they could do more than they certainly would do in other circumstances. And that's why you see guys like White or Bolden or Chandler, and all of a sudden they become I wouldn't say impact players, but they become good players on the Patriots, and they do more than they would do in other circumstances.
All right, couple other interesting things from today at the NovaCare Center in the press conference where Chip Kelly was speaking about this very game, and he mentioned Ryan Matthews, and it looks like, man, boy, he must have got dinged pretty good because it doesn't look like he's going to play again this week, and he actually did kind of offer something as to how the offense has been hurt a little bit by not having him around.
Yeah, and he's one of the two deep guys, and actually the Eagles, we talked about dating back to the preseason. Before everything shook out, they did look very deep at the running back position. Hasn't worked out that way because there hasn't been much effectiveness. But he's the one guy who has shown explosiveness in this offense, and it's been an issue though throughout his career. And it's if it's not a concussion, it's a groin, it's a hamstring, it's something that's keeping Ryan Matthews off the field, and it is an issue. And it's one of the reasons that despite his tremendous talent, he wasn't paid like a number one back because no one trusts that he'll be on the field for 16 games.
He was asked a lot over the last couple of days about John making changes. Anybody around? And he always seems to think like, hey, at this stage of the season, there's not a guy on the street that you're just going to bring in here, and take somebody's spot. But, he was kind of asked about doing things, and I've kind of said this before, like, bringing somebody to kind of work out just to kind of show your players, like, hey, maybe I'm not performing and I need to step up. They brought in a couple of guys for workouts this week. And he seems like very laissez-faire about the fact that sometimes competition is a good thing around there. Do you get that indication as well? Here's a guy who always talks about competition and then yet doesn't really seem to subscribe to it during the course of the season that, hey, you're not performing. We're going to bring guys in here and maybe push you a little bit.
Well, I think the competition's got to come from inside that locker room. I kind of agree with Chip.
Well, I'm not saying there's guys, and I'm not saying that there's guys on the street. I'm not saying that there is, but maybe there was, maybe there has been, and it just seems that he thinks if you're not on a roster at any point during the season that you're not going to help us out. But Miles Austin shouldn't be on a roster.
Yeah, that's true, and obviously they brought Jalen Watkins back when Nolan Carroll's done for the years. They brought in Barrett Jones as an offensive lineman off Chicago's practice squad. So because they're looking for depth inside after Jason Kelce got banged up with the knee. So and they certainly didn't trust Julian Vanderbilt. So they have made some little tweaks here and there, but generally he was right when he said there's 32 teams. So if you're on the street at this point, you're not going to help much. It's got to come from inside that locker room. It's got to be from younger players. And one of them's Eric Rowe, and he's going to get his opportunity through injury, and he's got to step up. We'd like to see something at some point from Marcus Smith, but it's got to come from inside the building. And unfortunately, he made a prudent point when he said, if you're thinking about benching a guy, your next question is going to be, okay, who are we going to play? And maybe that guy isn't nearly as good as the guy behind him. Some of the little things, I still don't understand why Taylor Hart plays instead of Brandon Bear, but that's not going to make or break your team. It doesn't make a lot of sense because one guy's been effective and one guy hasn't. And you can nitpick, but this team isn't very good right now, and there's a dearth of talent, and you're not going to be able to fix that until the off season.
Yeah, that's a good point about Barry. He was a guy whose name was mentioned, constantly. It seemed like for 2 or 3 weeks there with some injuries, and you're right. I didn't even know he was back active, to be honest with you. Or back practicing because he was hurt.
He's practicing. He's fully healthy, but he's a healthy scratch every week, and
right.
The 2 games he played, he was very, very effective. And Taylor Hart, a favorite of the coaching staff, they like his off season. He's from Oregon. He's got every check mark, but when he's on the field, he's invisible. So,
I don't recall Bear's name was called more in like a 3-down span than Hart's has in the entire tenure that he's been here. Let's talk about,
exactly.
By the way.
But that's not a huge move. But, yeah, you could certainly criticize Chip or Bill Davis.
Maybe it's not, you know what, though? Maybe it's not a huge – these are the things like maybe it's not a huge move, but Hart goes to Oregon and that whole rap, that he likes the Oregon players. And here's a guy, Bear, that maybe other people truly believe can help them or that it deserves to play, and you're not playing them. Maybe that's like, man, we're just – little things like that. Sometimes they say it's just a little, your wife or your girlfriend, they always tell you it's the little things. Well, maybe in this situation it's the little things. Like, Bear's better than you, Hart.
Well, I think he is. I think he's an Oregon type guy, too. So I think more than that is and they really, really want draft choices to succeed, especially in this organization, which has had some trouble, obviously, in recent drafts, get contributors, especially more so at the top.
Right.
So anytime you have a draft choice versus a free agent who went undrafted, you brought him in, you really want that draft choice to succeed. Sometimes you're blinded by that. I think that's an indication of what's going on there because Bears, as you mentioned, he's just proven to be a better football player.
John covers the league nationally for today's pigskin.com. Make sure if you're an NFL fan, you check out his work over there, in addition to his Eagles work at 97.3 ESPN.com. Giants, Jets. Let's dive into that one real fast. Big game for both of these teams. It's a Giant home game, and, of course, they share the same stadium. So this one is going to be a big impact on both of these teams' playoff aspirations.
Yeah, sure. The AFC is really jumbled now that Houston's back in the mix. So I never thought we were talking about two potential playoff teams from the AFC South, but now we're talking about that with all the 6 and 5 teams. Going to have Darrelle Revis again with a concussion, and that's an issue because obviously the strength of the New York Giants right now is OBJ, and you'd like to have the game's best corner try to at least a bit. Giants, you always talk about there's no consistency to that team. They can come out and look like world beaters, and they can come out and lay an egg. They looked very, very entitled in Washington last week. They looked like they thought the Redskins were going to roll over because they were the Giants, and they were gravely mistaken. So I never know what to expect from the Giants on a week-to-week basis, and this week is no different. I think the Jets are a more talented football team, but the Revis injury obviously hurts greatly.
Dallas and Washington. We know Dallas is done. I will join that camp. Once Romo went out, I bailed off on the Cowboys camp. I can't believe they kept me on him.
Jerry Jones hasn't given up. He's not.
Yeah, he's a jackass. But Washington, they're an interesting story. They haven't won 2 games in a row all year, but they've been very good at home. They're playing Monday Night Football at home. Is Washington ready to finally show that, hey, we could be the team that grabbed this division? And Dallas, who, I think they stink. But I don't know that they're going to lose every single game that Castle plays. He looked a little bit better coming in relief last week. I think they're going to win one of these games against the Redskins. Will it be on Monday night? Can the Redskins win 2 in a row in prime time?
Yeah, I think the Chiefs at home, and as mentioned, they're 5-1 at home. They're 0-5 on the road. This season, they've proven actually to be a good football team playing at home, and without Tony Romo, and they're 0-7. I might not disagree with you if the game's in Dallas. I might say because the Cowboys kept a lot of those losses very close and had an opportunity to win some of them. I would give them a chance to certainly win if the game wasn't in Landover. But the Redskins are a better football team. I won't say good. They're better than people think they are, especially when they're playing at home.
All right, John McMullen, everybody. Check out 5 on the Patriots. John has his pick for the game at 97.3 ESPN.com. He'll give it to you on the air tomorrow at this time on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. I was a little surprised at the score of that game. Check it out, everybody. I'm not so surprised with the winner, but the score. I'm more surprised with. All right, John, I'll talk to you tomorrow, pal.
All right, thanks, Mike.